All right, we all rise. Welcome to the Alden Borough Council meeting for November 2021. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Move on with the agenda for the Borough Secretary for the roll call.
Mayor Maniaci,
Present.
President Procopio,
Here.
Councilman Borders,
Here.
Councilman Connolly,
Here.
Councilwoman Corrigan, here, Councilwoman Lambert, here, Councilman Maiden,
Here.
Councilwoman McKernan.
We will move on to awards, presentations, and appointments. I will defer to the mayor first for proclamation for American Legion Month on this Veterans Day week. You ready, sir?
Yeah.
I'll split the duties with you tonight like last month. Mr. Borders?
I took care of it for you, Charles. Take care of me. All right, here we go, guys. Let me first off by starting and say happy Veterans Day tomorrow. Thanks for everything you did. We'll keep this nice short and sweet. You know, whereas and all that good stuff, right, guys? Borough of Alden, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, Resolution 2021-08, whereas American Legion Post throughout Delaware County provides unique and memorable experiences. Whereas one such organization is the Alden American Legion Post 1000, a nonprofit veterans organization founded in 1947. Whereas throughout the year, the American Legion Post 1000 conducts quality and memorable events during the year, including the Memorial Day observation conducted at the Alden Ward Memorial, led by the post commander. The ceremony is highlighted by a 21-gun salute. Whereas the Legion has opened the post facilities for use of many borough organizations, including the Boy Scouts, Venture Sea Scouts, and the Alden Booster Civic Association, all without receiving any compensation at all. Alden American, now therefore be it resolved this 10th day of November 2021 by the mayor and council of the borough of Alden, that the Alden American Legion Post 1000 and its members are hereby commended and congratulated for their dedication to the Alden community. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, sir. All right, thanks, guys.
What's the, when's the parade tomorrow in media? What time is that?
11/11.
Oh,
11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month.
very good. Thank you. We next have a presentation to a retiring council member, Mr. Conley. Would you care to join me up front, sir? We thought we were going to do this last month. So Mr. Conley has served on the Alden Borough Council at least since 2016. Was elected in 2017, decided not to run this year. Before that, I met him first when he was on the board of directors of the Alden Boys Club, which has now become the Alden Youth Club. And he has served the borough on the recreation board and on the zoning hearing board in his capacity. He's standing a lot straighter these days and feeling a lot less pain since he's had some surgery on your knees this one. Is that correct? Your hip. And you've got more coming, do you? Or
I hope not.
okay. But now that he's standing up straight, so for his years of service to the borough, Councilman Joseph Conley, thank you for your service to the borough of Alden. This is a Bill Ressler print of the trolley stop and the old school, the way it was back before the new building got built. And his wife, Melissa's here tonight, who's been, come on. He's also raised two young, not so young boys who were probably how you got involved through the Boys Club back in the day. You coached what, everything from Pee-wee up through intermediate stuff. So he's a dedicated servant to the borough. We're sorry that he's stepping off council, but I'm sure he'll be around to help out with something. So on behalf of the council and the residents of Walden Borough, we present this for Bill Ressler Print to you, a local artist. Happened to went to school with my father for art. Bill's a nice guy, and we appreciate your service. Thank you, Joseph, for helping us out.
Who's never been to a meeting, because I'm not a public speaker, but it's an honor being on council. I would like to thank Mr. White, who kind of got me involved in everything that I was in, kind of sucked me in. It was a great experience, and anytime I had any questions, I could just call John, and he always knew the answer, so I really appreciate it, and thanks, everybody.
Mr. Conley will be with us for our meeting in December. However, the councilwoman who we honored last month is also retiring, Councilwoman Corrigan. This will be her last time she's physically here. She will be out of the country, traveling to Ireland in December. So we honored you, but we thank you very much for your service, since we won't be able to say that in December. So. Okay. Moving on the agenda, is there a motion to approve and accept the minutes of the previous council meeting as presented by the Borough Secretary?
I'll make the motion, Mr. President.
Mr. Borders?
I'll second it, Mr. President.
Mr. Conley, you only got another month to have this act together. All those in favor? Opposed, so we approve those. Receipt of communications. Would that include this letter from senior? Have you read this?
It's just $500 we give them.
It's a thank you from the Senior Community Services, which is located over on the Fitzgerald Mercy campus, for all of the work that they do. They have a senior center there. They also do Meals on Wheels. And we do donate to them annually. They have an aging at home, and they're thanking us for our support, and they support roughly 100 people in the borough of Alden. And they have programs there. I know some of our residents are also helped by teaching things like the art class over there. So that's the communication I have. Anything else, Madam Secretary?
No, sir.
Public comment. Who is registered over there to speak? Mr. Caperna, you're up first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joe Caperna, 126 South Clifton Avenue. On October 5th, we came in to our last council meeting and presented council with some literature of some ordinances of surrounding municipalities of firewood ordinances. I know you handed that out to everybody to council. And then there were some questions. We talked about it. During the course of that meeting, the solicitor stated that he was going to have a rough draft ready for last month's council meeting. If I'm not, that he had went on record with, and that is on the meeting on Zoom meeting. If you need me to share with that, I'm glad to play it for you. Okay, I came in last month and I had asked you once again, this month, the caucus, that you had nothing prepared. So I said to myself, either the solicitor didn't do what he said he was going to do, or you told him not to do it. So I'm a little confused here on that. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, do you have anything else you want to
Yes,
say
I do.
tonight?
I got some photos that I want to hand out to council. These are photos that have been recently taken in the last 9 months. Because I'm assuming that we're going to discuss something about an ordinance or a council meeting, which should be discussed at a business meeting.
Open discussion at any meeting of a council.
I know,
whether it's a
I know,
caucus
I
or
know,
not.
I know, Mr. President. I know. I just want to reflect on this first photo. Before I go, this is taken 2 months ago, okay? As you see, the parks and whatnot. This is a prime real estate for mosquitoes during summertime. Prime real estate during winter for rodents, animals, whatever needs to be, heat, to hide and get out of the elements of the weather. I'm just, I am in my last wit with this. I've been going on many years, but I've been strong this last year about this. And I don't know why it just takes a year of me coming in here screaming and yelling, which I shouldn't have to do. If I come up here with a hardship, it's something should come of it within the next few months. It shouldn't take a year for something to get done. I mean, this is ridiculous. There's 7 photos here. That I'd like all councilors to look at. And this is what I've been dealing with for many years. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Mr. President, I'm gonna give you some wise words that one man told me, a boss and a friend. He said, a true leader delegates to his workforce. And I want to share that with you. Because I believe in my heart, if you do that, maybe we'll get stuff like this finished in less than a year of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Caperna. In answer to your question, as you know, we have cited that gentleman's property on numerous occasions. We were unable to go to court until midsummer, and there have been 2 hearings already, and Mr. Tartaglia has been on that location on multiple times. And as a matter of fact, there's another hearing coming up, I believe, on December the 2nd. I was just looking up to see if I could find the dates that he brought that up. It was my understanding that you brought this up many years ago, and you did bring it to our attention. We have sent people out to look at it. We were unable to go to court on the situation because of COVID, dating back to March of last year, until we didn't start hearing our cases, I think, until July of this year, with a backlog. And I know there were a minimum of 14 citations on this property prior to that. I directed the solicitor not to draft an ordinance until we had a consensus as to what that ordinance might be. And I did pass out, and I handed it to you as well, material that you had sent me something from Ridley Township. I went out and did other research and found that there were other material from other communities, and I did pass that around. The Planning Commission did discuss this. We did not have a formal meeting last month because I was the only person in attendance because of conflicts with work and other things. So I didn't have a report. I have circulated material to the council people that we're going to discuss tonight, so that we have a consensus, so that the solicitor can draft something. Even if we had something last week, we couldn't promote it until next, because we have to have 7 days of public advertising, and from last week's meeting to this week's meeting is less than 7 days. So my hope is that there will be a consensus tonight when this topic is discussed, and we will have an ordinance for passage in December. I agree the situation is not the best. Our ordinance, as it is currently written, is rather vague, and we will be bringing that topic up tonight for discussion, and see if we can come to a consensus so that we don't have an ordinance written and then having to be rewritten again. So the point of the matter was to work to get a consensus before we sent something on. And as you know, we actually have sent out our own abatement person to check that situation in the last week. I don't know the exact dates, Mr. White, but we did send
Last 2 months.
within the last month or two that we sent somebody out there to double check. The gentleman, I've been told by Mr. Tartaglia, has put out rodent traps and has organized it in a much better condition than it was before, although it is not what we would necessarily like to see. So I think that addresses your concerns of not having it fast enough to try to work consensus, and it has been circulated previously, and I did not receive any comments last month from any of the council members for the material that I sent to them. And I did send it out again for this month's meeting, not the caucus, but for this meeting. And there will be a discussion about how we would like to proceed so that the solicitor can draft something in legal terms that will meet the requirements of Alden Borough, not Ridley Township or Clinton Township or the other townships and boroughs that have similar ordinance like Parkside. So it's got to be tailored to us.
One more thing, Mr. President. The stuff that you're speaking about, as far as the ordinances he circulated, which was last council meeting. So nothing changed from last council meeting to caucus meeting last month, correct? You didn't receive any more literature or information about any other ordinances, am I correct?
I did not, but I also,
Discussed last week about this.
I
We're doing
would-
it this week.
Well, again, even if we had discussed it last week, that we couldn't have an ordinance for passage this month.
That's not my question, Mr. President.
I
I'm
had,
asking you, how come why it wasn't discussed last week?
because I had not gotten any comments back from people, and hold on. I was not prepared to discuss it in detail last week, and nobody else at that meeting spoke up about it at that time, so that's why.
Well, you're kind of handling this whole matter, if I understand correctly.
No, I have sent out material to council members, and the planning commission has discussed the situation at our September meeting. And again, there wasn't a full meeting in October. So there isn't a formal recommendation from the planning commission, having looked at the other ordinances that you referenced, that we were able to find that were on record, because there are different communities approach it in a different manner.
I'm just confused. You said you drafted something up. What's different from last week until whenever you sent your email? I got a draft from last week to today.
Well, there isn't anything, except I
Okay,
hadn't gotten
all right,
any,
thank you, Mr. President.
I hadn't gotten any comment back. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but this situation was festering prior to our accepting our office in January of
It hasn't-
2020.
That wasn't my questions.
Well, you
Here
did
now.
make a comment about the fact that it's been going on for many, many years. So other than us sending out enforcement
We're gonna blame
personnel,
it on somebody else, right?
I'm not blaming it on anybody.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I got.
All right.
I would
Thank you.
just like to make a comment. When you delegate to the planning commission, I mean, you can ask for their input,
Yes,
but this is for this board to decide.
I disseminated Councilman Corrigan after our last meeting to all the members of this council, the material that I had, and I heard back no comments from anyone who was to me about it, other than I had some additional comments from planning commission members, because we did not have a formal meeting in October.
Well,
So
I think you have to discuss it here.
we are going to discuss it here.
Okay.
I sent everybody material today with pictures to back up what I had sent last month, and we'll have a
I mean,
discussion about.
regardless of what the planning commission says or does, this is the job. of
They
the
are not
people here.
they're a recommending body only. I said very clearly that there was no formal recommendation because there wasn't consensus at that. So it's not a decision that they make. It's a decision that the council makes, but we're utilizing the expertise of the people there and the time that they had in order to do research on the material, so that the council could have enough information that they could turn around and make a informed decision that would allow the solicitor to draft the legal parts of the ordinance in order to make, as opposed to having them do the work and then us making changes to it afterwards. So as to eliminate double duty, if you will. So it is on the agenda to be discussed later this evening.
We're discussing this evening.
Yep,
We're supposed to discuss this stuff at a workshop.
we're open to discussion at any meeting, Mayor.
That's why we don't get nothing done at the caucus meetings, and we sit around for an hour and a half, and we have gotten nothing done in 2 years.
Well, I would tend to disagree with you, but
The caucus meeting is a workshop, not to discuss what we're gonna do for this or whatever he's planning on doing in the following year. So, I mean, we talk about that tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4 people up here that are done after this January 3rd. Makes completely no sense. So you might as well just wait till January
well,
to do it again. Or have a secret email group going around and take care of it.
I didn't have any secret email
I'm
group.
just saying,
We don't
it's
take
okay.
discussion.
I'm just letting you know how I feel.
You have been copied on everything that I
Oh,
sent out to council,
and
Mayor.
quite frankly, the last couple of days that you've been sending out emails, I haven't even looked.
Okay. Right.
So workshop is a workshop, not council. You hold 2 council meetings and we get nothing done. Nothing. And then we get billed from the solicitor constantly. We get nothing done. We've got nothing done in months here. Nothing.
Well, that's your opinion, Mayor. The next resident, Mr. D'Amico from 6 Ridley.
650 Avenue, on a lighter note, Mr. Connolly, you got a beautiful picture. Artwork. I went to kindergarten in that school. And the best part of the day was getting the cream off of the little bottles of milk. So I'm showing my age, I'm 70 years old. So, this is in reference to the bench and the trash can that's in the Borough Park that was put there without even asking people around what they thought. I did some investigating and just gonna make it quick. I made a brochure of pictures, what it looks like from my house. It's approximately 40 feet from my property line. And there's a bench behind my house in the park that's 35 feet from my property line. It's an eyesore and it's a nuisance. I had my second issue with people today. I had to call 911 as told by Officer Capola. If there's something going on, call. This is my second one. The first time I was told not to approach the person, walk away from the incident. This time I did what he told me to do. When the two police officers pulled up, the people that were there for over an hour screaming, yelling at the top of their voice, I couldn't even sit in my house without watching TV and enjoying quiet time on a beautiful day. The girls got up and left. They started walking across the park. Then the police come up to my door and want me to know what I should do. It's a nuisance. It's just, the trash is building up like crazy. You see the pictures I showed you. There's whiskey bottles, beer bottles, everything in it. And all of a sudden, it's a haven for people dropping their dog poop in it. They go crazy. There's a different color bag for every owner in there. And the police went up and looked at it and looked in there and saw it. So, and if you're looking at the hills with the leaves, the mud, the snow, the rain, more of these people walking up that hill are gonna fall. You're gonna have a lawsuit. I'm telling you right now, you're gonna have a lawsuit. That bench needs to be put down the other end of the park away from people. I don't mind the bench. I don't mind the trash can, but it can't be that close to my house. It's ridiculous. You get up in the morning, lift up the shade, there it is. Trash can, bench, somebody sitting on it. Same thing. Go on my porch, where my computer, my TV, and where I hang with my dog all the time. She barks, I look out. Same thing I see, trash. It's inevitable. It's in the wrong spot at the wrong time. As I said last meeting, been here 70 years. That park didn't need a bench. It was fine the way it was, putting a blanket down, having a picnic, playing with the kids. Now all is a nuisance. So, like I said, I did what Officer Capola told me to do today. And the police said, what do you do about people that are talking out loud, talking on their speakerphone, screaming and yelling? You can't tell them to shut up. I mean, it's a free world. But yet it's coming in my house. So it's a nuisance. I had to shut my door today and hope but by then the police came. But I don't want to have to keep calling all the time, but I will. I'll call about everything and anything, because you can see in that pictures that I sent you, I see everything. That is the best house for view. I can see Providence Road, Ridley, Providence Place. I can almost see the school from my house. My old next door neighbor, Jim and Joan Hoakley. That's what they used to watch their kids coming down Providence Road. It's such a beautiful sight. But I'm just requesting, I love the book box. I have no issues with the book box. My wife is a librarian too. We closed the door 1,000 times. I mean, just, I don't know if it should be spring loaded. I don't know. But the bench and the trash can have got to go. When the two girls got up today and left, they didn't walk down that area that John says is the shortest hill in the park. They walked right down the middle of the park, right to the other end, to the point, went down the hill there. So you can't tell me you put it there because it's a small hill. A hill is a hill and somebody's going to get hurt. And I hope the guy just don't have a lawsuit again, but I see it coming. Especially when the snow comes and now with the leaves there and the rain. And like I said about the dog thing, it's just unbelievable. If somebody in the summertime were sitting next to that bench and that trash can, you couldn't do it. It's gonna stink.
You start off by saying that we're gonna get a lawsuit because of the Little Hill where it's at now.
No, I'm just
But
saying.
yet, excuse me, I'll let you finish. So, but your suggestion now that we put it at the other end, which is the highest point,
No, I'm suggesting that I know you're gonna do whatever you want to do.
whatever council.
Yeah, whatever you decide that you're gonna do, because you're gonna do it. You're gonna jam it down our throat. That's the way it is around here. I know. I've been around too long. And now you're gonna do it. Now, it doesn't matter to me if you put it down the other end, but get it away from that end. It's too close to my head. I guarantee you, everybody over here on council would not want a bench 40 feet from the front of their house and 35 feet from the back of their house in the other field that the borough owns.
I actually asked for it down my end.
Well, I would like to make a motion to move it down closer to Beach Avenue, backing up to Providence Place.
Why?
Yeah, I think that'll be a better spot. 4 of the neighbors that live, 3 of the 4 neighbors who live beside Ralph, all are not happy with it. I've spoken to them. They're not happy. 2 of them did not want to come to the
It's not my
council.
fault that they won't come to the meeting.
No,
I
it's
deal with
not.
everybody
They're
else.
not happy. So at this point, I would like to make a motion to move the bench and the trash can to the other part of the triangle.
Before you make a motion, the reason it was put there, first of all, it's the lowest point.
I get it.
Secondly, there's a light right there.
The light that's in
Well,
front of-
either,
Mr.
my motion is
Porter's
either
house.
maybe to remove it or to move it. That would be my motion.
The light that's in front of Mr. Borders' house is the brightest light in the whole neighborhood,
Yeah.
and that's where it should be. It should be down there.
So anywhere but in front of your house is what you're really saying.
You're intrusive
Just say
on
what
my
it is,
privacy.
Ralph.
That's, I don't care where you put it.
So they're using the
You
bench.
got it from the trolley stop up there from some donation, Woodlawn Avenue.
We actually have 3 in
And
now.
you decided to put it right in front of my house.
I mean,
What was the
truly,
point of
I
that?
do think,
Put it over here in the field where people want to.
There is one.
I
We
do
do.
think we should have talked to the neighbors that are affected, the 4 houses that are right there. What would, I did tell council not to place the bench there, and I was not listened to. But there's 4 houses that are right there. 3 of the 4 people are not happy that the bench is there. They don't want people hanging at the front of their houses, and it is disruptive.
And the
So
trash
at this
can-
point, I would like to either move it.
And the trash can is a metal, you can see through trash can, and it's just building up. And I love looking in the mornings and drinking my coffee, half full trash can.
Well, it is, my understanding is that the bench and the trash can are temporary at this point. You mentioned your concerns at last month's meeting.
Yeah.
I did actually drive by both the front and the back of your house between the meetings.
Right.
The bench that's behind your house that you showed pictures of has been there since, as you commented, it was used as a ball field back in the day. And as a matter of fact, about 3 years ago, the boosters rehabilitated the benches that were back there because they were not in good condition. We will take it under advisement to see if there's some other better spot for it, and I think,
That's why I gave you the pictures. It's
Right.
worth 1,000 words, and you see the beer bottles. You know, a matter of fact.
well, the time I drove by and got out and walked around, it was probably about 3 weeks ago. I did not see any of that trash back there. It might have been already been picked up at some point in time.
Now the leaves are falling, you can see the bottles and the shrubs and everything. There are things.
Milk
Right.
bottles, everything.
We
They've
do
been
try
there
to
for
keep it cleaned
years.
up.
It's not my job to clean that area.
Right. Well, we do have a service that does supposed to clean, what do they clean weekly at the moment, the trash cans? We'll, again, the bench
The
and the,
can is maybe a third full.
yeah, the trash can and the bench are not a permanent installation at this point. The one was donated by
Mark,
somebody.
I'm not sure of that, but it's only a third full.
So,
It has not been empty that I've seen, and I walk past it
How long's it
at
been
least
there?
5 times a week.
Okay, so it's only been up there for what,
For
3
week,
weeks?
3.
And it's barely at a third now after 3 weeks.
And how many?
I don't think we have that many people putting these bags in there
The
if I
police
haven't
officers-
emptied it yet.
The police officers walked up after they left me, and they looked in there, and they were shaking their heads.
I saw the pictures.
Well, as I said, I would like to make a motion to move the bench to closer to Beach Avenue, backing up to Providence Place.
well, I mean, it's not a voting item that's on the agenda, so I don't know if that's an appropriate to do that, since we're going to take it under advisement anyway.
Yeah, a few months ago, we could
So I
have done
can't make a
that.
motion?
No, they changed the Sunshine Act laws to say that you can't add items to the agenda. We have to have our agenda set 24 hours in advance. And it specifically calls for things like this. If a member of the public brings something forward, you can, put it to the staff for study and for possible action at the next meeting. So we can't have a motion on the agenda for next month's meeting to move once the staff looks at it.
You wouldn't want it in front of your house. I wouldn't want it in front of your house either. It's just gotta be.
No, you want it in front of Buddy's house. Because he's got a bright light. you said.
Well, Buddy's half a football field away from that trash can. I'm 40 feet.
I know where
Okay.
Buddy's at.
All right, timer's up.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. D'Amico. All right, let's move on.
I got,
So,
it's up to me.
well, it's up to the reports of the borough officers, Mayor Maniaci.
Happy Veterans Day, everybody. That's all I got. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Thank you, Mayor. Borough Manager White.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one quick scam to report this month. This one's actually coming from the phone call scammers claim to be sheriff. If you get a phone call from Sheriff's Department seeking money to avoid arrest, the Sheriff's Department doesn't call you. They just show up at your door. They show up to lock you up, so they don't give you a warning. They also don't ask for payment of any kind, especially some kind of card where you have to go to Target and scratch off the little number. So, use common sense, please. That's really the best way to avoid the scammers is use your head. No one's asking you for money except your wife. That's pretty simple there. Or husband,
Yeah, thank you for that.
spouse. Got 2 speed data analyst reports to report for this month. One was on North Elm Avenue, near Wayne. 2,600 cars went by, posted speed of 25, average speed of 21, which was 0 enforcement rate. The second one, we put at East Rively and Springfield Road. Again, what we're doing right now is trying to get a count of how many cars are going down each street, because we really don't have a speeding problem. But if somebody thinks we do, we'll be glad to move it there. 2,080 cars, posted speed of 25, average speed of 20. So last caucus meeting, Councilwoman Kerning said, I guess a couple of residents got her about Jeffrey Road. So currently it is deployed at Jeffrey Road. I'll have those numbers next month. I'm not going to comment until we see the
I'm
numbers.
going on record, says the best money I ever spent. I'll let, I'm giving the permission to buy that thing.
Okay, the LED streetlight project is finally out the bid, and that's all I'm saying because our borough engineer did all the work, so I would like it to be under her report. We have a sinkhole that we talked about last week developing in front of the swim club, Maryland and Willows. So currently we are scheduled to work on it tomorrow. It's probably going to take 2 to 3 days to work on it. There will be detour signs, local traffic only, coming from No Name Mini Market and road closed ahead. The road will be closed at Birchwood and California Avenue. We also put it up on the website that there's a road closure to let everybody know. So it's probably going to take, Friday looks like a washout, so I'm assuming they're going to be done Saturday or Sunday. Once they open the hole, they will plate it at night, but he said, we're going to stay on it. We're not leaving the job.
Is the plan to leave it closed only while they're working, or does that have to be closed the whole time because they have to open the street up?
No, only while they're working.
Only while they're working. Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for the borough manager?
John, yeah.
Wait a second.
All right.
Was that, did you have a question?
So there's no, don't take any recycling over there?
You can take recycling down to Elm.
Oh,
You can still go in that way. Just go straight through that do not enter sign. Well, it's the only way in and out right now, so.
Nobody's taking it yet. You're on record.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Morris, you had a question?
Yeah, are the LED lights, are they gonna replace existing lights, or is there any new lights that are gonna be planned?
I would wait until our borough engineers report. She can answer that for you. She
Okay.
did all the legwork for it, so I don't want to answer.
There
for her.
is a resident on, that lives on the corner of Glenwood and Alton that mentioned to me that he would like it, that was a little bit too dark and wanted to see a light, I guess that additional lighting in that area location, so, I'll wait for the engineer and see if that's in the works.
She will cover that when we get to it, Mr. Morris. Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, treasurer, what, oh, I'm sorry.
Just a question about
Mr.
the,
Walker.
the speed limits, or the speed reports. Is that just a general average of the 2,000 so vehicles that go by? Is there a margin of error? I'm just curious as to how that's calculated.
Which street we talking about? You're talking about any.
Any street.
So I'll do East Rivoli and Springfield. 2,080 cars were analyzed, posted speed of 25, average speed was 20. The slowest speed for the day was 9 miles an hour. The fastest was 43. Just to let you know, when it says 0 enforcement rating, if it's posted 25, by state law, you cannot ticket until 36. Doesn't mean someone wasn't going 30, but state law says you can't even ticket.
Your name, sir?
Ross Feinberg, 101 Beach. I wanted to ask it, since recycling was brought up, is there any plans in the near future to bring back recycling pickup without adversely affecting our budget?
You want to, Carolyn, you want to address that now?
We put out a bid for pickup recycling last month. We put out a request for bid, and we didn't receive any. So we can't then hire anyone to do that at this time. So for the immediate and sort of near-term future, there's not going to be any curbside pickup. But it's something that we're continuing to look at. There's a couple more avenues we can look at and see if we can, the goal is to eventually bring it back, but not currently in its current form.
I mean, I know there's people that like to be as responsible as possible,
Absolutely.
so.
Well, we had a recycling committee that Councilwoman McKernan, and they did a lot of research and effort, and we put out a bid with the specs as they requested. And as she said, we got absolutely 0 responses. We are looking at some other alternatives. I don't know if they'll be in place time for the beginning of January, but the hope is that possibly. And we are going to continue to go back out and see if we can solicit it in the future. So with the residents have been very good about utilizing the drop-off point down there, and the dumpster gets emptied regularly, and we have the paper and the cans and the plastic, they get picked up, and they've been filled quite a lot. So
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, President.
you're welcome. Mr. Chachi?
Yes, Mr. President, is there, I guess maybe this is a question for our solicitor, can we just continually, as in, there's probably costs associated, right, so we wouldn't want to, but put out RFPs for, is there a specific, is there anything we can do to potentially, get potentially more bids? And second of all, is it a nightmare to try to get an intermunicipal agreement for something? Obviously, you have to get the agreement of the other borough. We're surrounded by a bunch of boroughs or townships that potentially could be amenable, but is that something that could happen?
Sure.
I can answer part of that, Peter,
Sure.
before you get your end of it. So right now, Clifton Heights also has a third party do theirs, but they also have a highway guy with the trash truck. Collindale has their own crew.
Right.
So I don't know where the intermunicipal agreement would come from.
Upper Darby.
Where,
They also had their own crew.
Well,
Darby has a full crew.
I mean, again, this is up for council, but if another municipality is providing the service for its citizens, we could seek to see if they would want to do it for us too. So that's certainly an option, in alternative of getting bids. As far as the bidding goes, all you can do is play with the specs, but you have to put it out for bid. Look, it's just an economic issue, I think, at this point. It's just whatever was happening before that made recycling economically feasible has now flipped. And so, we want to be responsible and put out a good detailed bid, but then that probably makes it more expensive for the people who are bidding. So that's why I think maybe, so intergovernmental cooperation agreement is definitely an option. I don't think it's a nightmare. It's just up to.
We have to get
if possible.
have to get the cooperation of the other borough if they have the availability.
I guess to put my question more succinctly, there's nothing we can do to directly, given the threshold of this particular potential contract. You can't go directly to any vendors.
No, you have to put it out for bid.
And you can't like informally ask a bunch of people in addition to putting it out for bid.
Mr. Techi, I just want to let you know, when I was on trash and recycling, I tried,
You tried.
and I placed multiple calls to multiple trash people. And it's almost like they won't cross the line.
They won't cross the line.
They won't move in on someone else's territory. But I did try multiple times to try and get bids from other vendors other than B&L.
Thank you, Councilwoman Carr. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Seeing nothing else, treasurer report, Mrs. Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start our report tonight with the general fund. The beginning balance of cash on hand was $973,974.75. Our total receipts for this period were $52,674.44. Our expenditures were $180,596.65, and we also had gotten a deposit that was to for our escrow fund, which was transferred in the amount of $25,762, leaving an ending balance of cash on hand in our general fund of $846,052.54. Moving on to the state highway fund, our only income for the month was $1.02 in interest, and we had no expenditures from the highway fund this month, leaving us with an ending balance of cash on hand of $6,404.22. Moving on to our sewer fund, the beginning balance of cash on hand is $395,676.76. Our income was $1,257.81 in sewer rent and $42.59 in interest from the sewer and the sewer reserve fund. No expenditures for this month out of the sewer fund, so that leaves us with an ending balance of cash on hand of $396,977.16. Mr. President, at this time, I would ask council's approval to move the money from the following funds so that we can pay our bills. From the general fund, total of $180,596.65, and nothing from the state highway nor the sewer fund. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report as submitted and to authorize the payment of bills?
Yes, Mr. President, I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as reported and to pay our bills for the month.
Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Maiden, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, thank you very much. I do have one question. What was the transfer of the escrow funds for what?
It was for the fire, like we had a check for fire.
Oh, fire relief
Fire
fund?
relief.
No,
Okay.
fire
Yeah,
escrow.
fire escrow. So what happens is when there's a fire, the money has to go into the
Oh.
escrow fund. And it was inadvertently deposited into the general fund, so we just transferred it
Oh,
over to
okay.
the escrow fund.
Right.
to keep it separate.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for the treasurer? Seeing them, solicitor, Mr. Amuso.
Thank you, Mr. President. So yesterday was the deadline for the new owner of the 33 Province to submit sealed engineering reports. We've not received that, but we're working with the manager. We still feel like, that they're working on it. We want to extend them good faith. But we will work with the manager to ensure that they are aware that they've passed the deadline, and so that we can both act in good faith, but without waiving anything in front of the court. If it goes too long, again, working with Mr. White, we'll go back to the court and say they haven't met their obligations. But it seems like, they're working on it. This is something that's not simple. But the deadline was yesterday, but we'll work with Mr. White to make sure that that comes to a conclusion one way or the other. And that's all I had to report.
We did sign the documents last week to submit for 2 Springfield Road,
Correct.
and we've heard nothing further on that at the moment.
We have not.
Okay. I thank you for preparing those. That was the escrow agreement, or I forget the.
That was the builder's agreement.
Builder's agreement.
Yes.
All right, so we're waiting on them for the next move. I know they've done a lot of demo, but they seem to have stopped at the moment. Any questions for the solicitor? Seeing, moving on to the engineer, Heather Gill, you're allowed to do a happy dance when you talk about
I don't know if
PennDOT.
that'd be pretty. I don't know if I can put myself out there, but
But-
I'm happy to talk about the grant.
I do thank you for being so diligent on this, considering that we had to go through multiple hoops to get to this point.
It was a journey. But we did receive verification that the changes that we made to the bid documents were up to PennDOT standards and codes. They gave us the green light to go ahead and bid it. It was advertised, and the bid due date is November 29th, so that you have a chance to review the bids and discuss at the December meeting. So we are good to go, thank gosh. We talked about 33 Province Road.
The Greenways grant, we did not receive round 2 of the Greenways grant. They were inundated, from what I understand, with a significant number of grants. We did receive for the first round grant money for the work for the pavilion, so that was awesome, but, hoping we get more money, but it's, we did get some money from that, so for the first round. We talked about the sinkhole at Maryland Avenue. And lastly, wrapping up road program, there's a punch list that's just left to address, and Mike, I know of our office, Barnhart, is working to make sure that that's wrapped up. And that's all I have to report.
Are there any questions for the engineer? Mr.
Now I
Morris?
have A question for the engineer.
Oh, yeah, about the streetlights. Go ahead.
Streetlights, are any of the LED lights just for existing areas or are there new areas?
It's just for existing, it's 250 existing lights that will be replaced.
Okay, is there any thought to adding lights at some point? And this is what I'm gonna bring up now. There was a resident that I talked to, I forget his name, but I can look it up. He lives on the he's the corner house on the southeast corner of Elm and Glenwood, mentioned to me that it's awful dark. So dark that, he's afraid to have his wife walk the street. So maybe something you could kind of check out, but I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, with this grant, it was definitely for replacement, and I can't even tell you the hoops that we jumped through just to replace it. So that would be LED. That's not to say that council, could look into that, but for this grant, it was merely replacement.
Mr. Morris, I had this very conversation with the engineer when I found out about the grant, because there are some other locations. So probably at some point next year, we'll do a survey to see if there's spots where we might be able to add. Also, we're replacing 13 metal poles over in
Correct.
the area of Marion and Pennsylvania and Priscilla. I
Throughout the
think.
borough,
Yeah.
Right,
Mr.
throughout the
President.
borough.
There's more than that over there. Okay. I appreciate all your work. I know it was a lot of back and forth. Did I see a hand for Ms. Blunt in the back there?
Yes, I guess my question was, are these replacements concentrated in a certain area? Are they scattered throughout based on need?
They are, I should back up.
It's all over town,
It's
except for
all
the
over.
section that was done previously with a
DPJ.
CDBG grant. Thank you for that.
Correct, and then what we did is we included a map that showed the area. I know it's small, it's 8.5 by 11, but the area that we actually received CDBG money from, we're doing the rest of the borough with the 250 lights that we're going to replace.
So when this is done, all the street
whole
lights
entire
will be LED lights in the
Correct.
borough. And eventually, after we're finished the process, we'll then be able to go to Pico
I'm actually dealing with Pico right now.
in order to get a reduction in our billing because they're LED, but we had to do this project first before we could get that reduction.
After we purchased the lights.
Well, we just did.
No, right now we rent. We're one of 4 municipalities who do not own our own lights.
But when we replace them, we're gonna be.
Then we're
purchasing-
going to.
Yeah, yeah.
But in order to get a rebate, you physically have to own them, which means you maintain them. Right now, we don't maintain them.
We're moving in that direction. This was the step, another stepping stone to get to that point down the road. Did you have another question?
But overall, since we're gonna be replacing everything, anything that is replaced with this new LED light, the town will have brighter spots, right? That's the concept.
I don't know if it's necessarily a
Be more
brighter
energy
illumination,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
more
gonna be,
energy efficient.
it's more energy efficient
Okay.
and it's gonna be less costly to maintain. And I think just environmentally friendly, that those factors were kind of the driving force behind that.
And we weren't looking for brighter because we actually got complaints from some of the residents in the CDBG area that it was too bright. So I mean, obviously, we can't make everybody happy here. The idea is just for energy cost savings.
Just like to go on the record and say, I'm glad that the lights are gonna be put in place, and it's gonna be pretty much done in my tenure as mayor, because I ran on that 4 years ago, put the LED lights in and save money. That was just another thing I ran on, and I delivered for all of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions for the borough engineer? Seeing none, thank you again, Heather. I appreciate all your work on this effort.
Good question here.
Oh, does someone have I'm
I
sorry.
did have a question. And since it was brought up with the LEDs and being efficient, I noticed on the budget increase for 22 on the building utilities and maintenance. Are they as efficient as possible as far as lighting and, to get our utility bills as low as possible?
Yes,
And
just a
they're gonna,
direct answer. I mean, LEDs are much cheaper.
Yeah.
We're
And
paying
they're-
$6,600 a year for our streetlights. So,
6,600 a month.
I mean, I'm sorry, a month. So we'll see what the cost is gonna be once we convert them all over. But it will be significant.
And they last longer.
And they have a 10-year warranty.
Was that good?
No, but I mean, LEDs, that's the highest level.
I know you're looking at it, but they would be under, these lights would be under highway street lights, so not under any other part of the budget.
Yeah, but I noticed the building utilities.
That's a different subject matter altogether,
Understood.
all right? Any other questions? Seeing none, moving on to reports of the board. Zoning board did not have any hearings. As I mentioned, the planning commission meeting last month, there was none because there wasn't a quorum. Was there a meeting of the recreation board?
It was not.
Okay, board of,
Mr. President.
yes, go ahead, Mr. Caperna.
Club. Basketball registration has been open for the last month. We're having 2 in-person registrations 2 nights a week. They do vary. If anybody's interested, you can email the club at allnewclub.com. We want to thank the rec board and council for the help of the purchase of our new field striper paint machine. It was a huge godsend. I mean, we spend about close to $80 a week on field paint aerosol. Now we're spending about 24 a week. So that was a huge thing for us. But that's all I have. Thank you.
I would just comment, I noted that there was, you guys were playing soccer on Sunday to make up for problems with the stoppages you had earlier in the year. There's another Sunday coming, is that correct? Is that
We
supposed to
got
be?
one more weekend coming up.
And it's the
for
finals will be
playoffs.
Saturday and Sunday this coming week.
Yes.
It was a nice day. There were a lot of people out there, so I didn't get to finish because I was working that day, but it was good to see the youth out running around having a good time.
I just have one,
yeah.
I could probably ask off the record, but, being state, we've always did a lot of our playing on Sundays due to rainouts or COVID this year, but, we're running really tight on schedule as far as good weather and light. So we're kind of hoping that we can do our outdoor banquet on the 21st of this month, right here at the field. I don't know if that would be a problem. We try to just smash it in on Saturday, but we're so behind on games. We're playing till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so we're crunch time with everything. But it will take place from noon to 3.
Up here at the ball fields?
Yes.
Well, considering this, the circumstance you had, I don't have a problem with allowing you guys to do that as long as it's going to be after 12 and done before 4 o'clock. Does anybody else have a problem with allowing them to utilize the facilities? All right. Well, hopefully you'll be able to make your awards and the weather will hold up. It'll be as nice as it was this weekend.
Thank you.
All right. Nothing for the Board of Health Historical Commission. I will defer to Treasurer Rankin, who has an update.
Just that we are planning on having a meeting next Wednesday. Unfortunately, our meeting last month was canceled due to our chairman's death in our family. So anyway, and we're planning on putting our tree up in the trolley stop and being there for the tree lighting.
Sounds good. All right. Any other questions? The boards? Seeing none, moving on, reports to the council committees. Public Works, Mr. Borders.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've discussed at length the sinkhole on Maryland Avenue, which was caused by a sewer collapse near the swim club, and repairs have been initiated. Also, a notice of abatement has been issued to a resident of Sylvan Way for their sewer lateral. It's become a safety issue over there, so we had to get involved. And the residents are reminded not to blow their lawn waste and leaves into the streets and to make sure some pumps are properly discharging onto the lawns and not illegally into the sanitary sewers. And also a reminder to be mindful of what you put down your drains like grease and oils. This month, Aqua has included a reminder sheet of problem foods that can cause clogs and backups. and this arrived in my water bill today. So it's not just a piece of trash, it's actually helpful information. And there's a couple other things on here I didn't even think about, like dairy and butter. Sauces, so very, very helpful. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councilman Borders. Is there any questions for the councilman? Mr. D'Amico?
I've always been curious as far as, when you talk about the sump pumps and not putting into the street and sidewalks and stuff like that.
Right.
Where does that water go? Does it go through a system? And we get charged for it? I mean, any water, our sewage water and everything?
Yes,
Is
yes,
that why they don't want the sump pumps in that line?
correct.
We would get charged more?
Yes,
money?
because we're essentially paying to treat rainwater,
Okay.
okay, or the groundwater. So that's why it should go on to, it should go onto your ground, or, onto your lawn, where it can sink back into the water table.
Okay.
Where it
But
belongs.
where does it go? Does it go through another township somewhere, that water? Does it?
Our sanitary waste, it ends up either in Southwest Philadelphia or down in Chester.
And there's a timer that shows how much water.
Yes, there's various
Meter.
meters throughout the
A
town.
meter?
So a couple months ago, there have been the lateral ordinance, that's been briefly talked about. The planning commission came up with a lot of charts that when it rains, you can see there's a spike in the amount of water that's being treated. So we don't know whether that's water being leaked through a lateral or that's coming from sump pumps. But bottom line is, we're paying to treat the water. Okay, so that's something that we're frequently reminding the residents,
Right.
to make sure your sump pumps are going onto the lawns, not down your driveway, because, like in the wintertime, you're shooting water out, it freezes at night, now you've got a safety hazard,
Gotcha.
okay?
Okay.
And, okay,
But it is meter.
Yes, it is.
yes, your wastewater is metered, and that's part of, I don't know, the $300+ a year you pay for sewer rent.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome.
Any questions? Thank you. Public Health, Councilwoman McKernan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The trash numbers for October were 123.89 tons. And also in October, we had a drug take back event where we collected 8 large boxes worth of medications from residents of Alden and of Clifton Heights. So that was a good success. As we mentioned, we put out a bid for curbside recycling pickup and did not get any bids. So there's nothing that we can do on that front at the moment, but as we talked about, there are other avenues such as intergovernmental agreements or kind of modifying the bid in some way to try and get the cost down that is economically feasible both for us and for the trash haulers. And then the only other thing I have is that the William Penn School District is running fall vaccination clinics on Thursday, November 18th and December the 9th. From 2 to 7 at Park Lane Elementary School in Darby. It looks like it's kind of focused on getting the young school age kids who just been approved for vaccines, but they are offering vaccines to anyone who shows up. And you can register by contacting the school. And that is all to my report.
Thank you very much. I saw a picture that Mr. Conley sent me of you and Officer Jackson at the event collecting collecting things, stepping in this time. Thank you very much. Any
You
questions?
didn't go up to that time?
I was working, so. All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, does that include booster, but,
Yes, first and second shots and boosters.
Okay. thank you.
Welcome. Seeing no other questions, Highway, Councilman Maiden.
I have nothing new to add with the engineer and Councilman Borders didn't already cover.
Alright. Very good, thank
Here's
you.
my report.
Any questions for the councilman? Seeing none, Public Safety, Councilwoman Corrigan.
Mr. President, I just want to go back again to the bench and the trash can. There was no motion made to put it there initially. So I don't understand why I should need a motion to get it moved, why we would have to wait. The people on this council have heard for the past 2 months that we have residents who are not happy about it. So why can we not do something about it tonight to make our residents happy? This is a quality of life for the 4 residents that live across the street from there. So I don't need a motion. We didn't make a motion to put it there. Why should I need a motion to move it? Why can we not listen to our resident and say he's not happy? let's try and make him happy. Let's move it to a different spot to make the residents happy.
Well, we'll take under advisement the moving. It's not a permanent installation, as I mentioned earlier. And if it's creating an incident, we'll see about moving it to another spot. So,
The guy's begging you
Yeah.
to move it.
I mean, come on, how many more times does he have to come here and talk to us about it before something gets done?
well, it is a public park and it is a bench in a public park, which is not an unusual thing. So we'll take a look at it again and see if there's some other better location that it can go into.
I feel like Joe's saying, people are coming and things aren't getting done. Why can we not help the residents? This isn't something to do with sewers, with laterals. This is a bench. There is no way we need a motion to move a bench. I mean, can you tell our resident tonight, we're gonna move it to a different stop. We're gonna try and make you as happy as possible.
We will make an effort to make him as happy as possible. I can't guarantee when and where it's going to be moved to without seeing what other recommendations there are or what we're going to do about it. Off the top of my head.
How about if I just went and moved it? Would I get in trouble? I mean, the guy's begging. Any other people that come up here, he's rolled out the red carpet for him. Help the guy out. Seriously, the guy's been here, how many years have been here now? 70 years?
70 years. I
Help
mean,
the guy
is it
out.
too much to ask to try and make our residents happy?
We'll take a look at it again and see what we can do about it.
That means it won't get done.
Yeah.
I'm
I mean, I
sorry.
would like to hear a time frame. Maybe like by December meeting, we'll have an answer for you. Is that unreasonable?
No, probably not. That sounds like we could have some sort of a resolution by the next month.
Well, I hope, Ralph, by then there will be some type that people up here can come to some type of agreement to keep the 4 people happy that live on that side of the street, that they'll listen to the
I mean,
residents.
especially being retired in your home more all day, you see everything. that goes
I
on.
just hope people will listen.
I do think also there's more than 4 people I assume using that park bench, you know.
Well, there's 4 residents that live right across the street.
Absolutely.
3 of
From
the
a
4
public
people are
park.
not happy.
Right, but
with
if they know they live in front of a public park, that everyone in the borough is.
So before it was done, somebody could have said, hey, would you be opposed to this? And nobody did. Nobody did.
Would surprise, it is surprising to me that this is an issue.
Because
You don't live there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was jammed down our
Yeah.
throats. You just
Yeah.
put it there. You didn't ask the people around here. You just put it there. And I don't like that. And I've been here too long to understand. And there's a lot of people on
So
this
it's not
council.
the bench, it's that you weren't consulted.
No, it's the bench because it's a nuisance. I told you, I was told to call 911 every time there's somebody out there causing a problem, talking loud. It's a nuisance. I hear it in
People
my
are
house.
allowed to talk in the park.
That's my point. Move it further down so I don't.
Move it
hear
further down that it's not closest to the 4 residents that live
What
right
happens in
on
the
that
summertime
side
when
of the
screens
field.
go up and I want fresh air and
I
they're out
mean,
there.
you live in a society.
Well, I was there before that bench was there.
I
Well,
mean, this is something that can be done. This is
we'll,
something easily fixed by
I was
this
in that
borough
house in my
council.
mother's stomach. I was born in that
Easily
house.
fixable. All right, I'll continue with the
Moved
fire
around
marshal's
much
report.
longer. It's the least I could ask.
In October, there were 12 calls placed to the fire departments, Collingdale and Clifton Heights. 12 calls, all resulting in no damage. During the month of October, ambulance EMS units responded to 32 calls within the borough. Fire Prevention Week was in October. Collingdale Fire Company visited Alden Elementary School, and a presentation was made to the students on fire safety, and an inspection was made of the school. And Mr. Gary would like to remind people as we approach the winter months, I'm asking all residents to have their heaters serviced and cleaned this season. Always bring an increase in alarm due to faulty and dirty heaters and fireplaces. So I'm asking all residents to change the batteries and their smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. And then I have the police report for the month of October. There were 281 radio calls, 1 armed robbery, 1 strong arm robbery, 7 thefts, 10 accidents, 18 domestics, 4 loud parties within the borough, 4 neighbor disputes, 5 civil disputes, 17 alarms, 21 medical emergencies, 2 mental subject issues, 98 traffic citations, 71 parking tickets issued, and there were 4,719 miles patrolled within the borough. The detective reports are working on 3 child abuse cases, 5 thefts, 2 frauds, 2 harassments, and 2 robberies. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councilman McCargan. Are there any questions for the councilwoman? Seeing none, move on. Law and ordinance, Mr. Conley.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the month of October, we performed 8 transfer inspections covering 11 units, 6 sale re-inspections, along with 28 rental inspections and 4 rental re-inspections. There was no progress at the 2 South Springfield Road after demolition of buildings and the grinding of the masonry. We've still not had any formal construction plans and have not seen any resolution with SEPTA or a PennDOT permit approval. Touched on 33 Providence. Hearings were held in district court on the 7th, 14th, and the 28th with a number of outstanding citations. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the councilman? Seeing none, we'll move on to finance. Councilwoman Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report of the reserves, the general reserve has $605,968.40. The sewer reserve, $297,782.46. And the police capital reserve, $1,088. And also, the preliminary budget has been presented, and I make a motion to approve the preliminary budget, and also that copies of the budget will be available tomorrow at the municipal building, in addition to what's been given out this evening.
The councilwoman has a motion on the floor to approve the preliminary budget, which is the worksheet was presented to council members last week. And there haven't been any changes since then. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Borders, any discussion? Seeing, no, I'll make a couple of points. If you look at it, there's actually, I passed out tonight a comparison sheet. There are a couple errors. If you have one of the ones that wasn't corrected under the treasurer's salary and expenses from 2021, should read 12,500 and 12,000. And on the very bottom, on the last page, it's 2,396,741, not 2,395. Talked with the treasurer, there was a glitch in the addition program on there. So the total overall, yeah, well.
Operator error.
Yeah.
Operator error, yeah. I'm not that good.
So at the moment, the budget shows an increase of about it's 96, about $12,000 in total. And there is no anticipation that currently the preliminary budget shows no increase in any of the areas, this sewer, trash, or real estate tax. We are still waiting on our 2022 assessment, which in discussion with Mr. White today, we normally don't get until about the 15th of the month. And we also are looking for numbers for the solid waste authority. And is that the only 2 that we're waiting on at the moment? Finalized numbers. I think everything else we've gotten in. There's a few other stragglers that we have. I know we've got preliminary numbers on the sewage treatment.
The solid is the Darby Creek.
No, the Darby Creek, that's sewer. I'm talking about the solid waste authority.
Solid waste authority, we know went up, but I didn't get that letter till today,
Yeah.
so that's why I
It's
didn't put it in.
not in there. Yeah,
It's only a preliminary budget. guys.
right. Mr. Morris?
I should, we're gonna have a meeting in a week in about a week. So we should have finalized numbers by next week. So I'll give those to you
Right.
as soon as I have.
That's very good. And as you see, thanks to the councilwoman Lambert's suggestion, and our treasurer has provided a pie chart for budget income and
I pushed
expenses.
the right button, but I can make it good.
Pie chart looks good.
What pie chart?
And I handed out, the packet that you have didn't have the comparison sheet because I had asked the borough manager to print it out, but my description to him was not correct. So that's why when he printed it out, I made a comment last week. I apologize to him for that. I wasn't clear enough in my description. My printer showed a different setting than his did when I went in and looked at it again today. So that's why I made additional copies, people. Any other questions?
I have additional report.
Okay, well, we haven't voted on the budget yet, so you have something to
I
add to
have
that?
some, not to the budget. I have
Okay,
additional.
there's a question from the
Yeah,
audience.
are there prior year budget, borough budget available, let's say going back 3 or 5 years at the,
Yeah, they're posted on the website.
You can go back, you can get last year's right online.
right, let's say for 2019, 17.
I believe I think they're online
Yeah, they
somewhere.
probably are.
I believe that they're all online. if
Every
you
year it's
look in-
posted, so.
Yeah, it's posted under
On
budget
the
numbers.
website.
You may have to search for it, Ross. You may have to search around when you get to the website, but you can probably be able to find
I know the 2021 budget numbers are readily available and I show for comparison, 2022 and 2021 numbers. Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor Willows.
General budget,
Pardon me?
general budget,
Yes.
number 16. Is there a mistake with that big crossing guard? Geez, mighty low.
Well, don't forget, that's only half of what the crossing guards get paid because we share the expense with the school district.
Right, but we don't get paid for days where the schools close, for Christmas, we don't get nothing. It don't seem like much of a raise here.
I think you might have to have. a
Mr.
meeting.
McNally, I know you like to complain about it, but you don't realize you got $1 an hour raise. Council was good enough to search all the surrounding crossing guards in the area, come up with a very comparable and fair salary for crossing guards.
Can we get an escort for him? Okay, I just wanted to check that.
Didn't you just give me Coke?
I'm happy. Yeah.
Hold
I'm
on.
happy now.
He never glasses on.
Councilman Maiden, you have a question?
So I just have a question about the swings between 2021 budget and full-time under police department, line 14 and line 15. Me, it suggests that we're scaling back on full-time officers.
No, we still have the same amount that.
Absolutely not.
Go, you want to answer that question? further?
Sure.
Just make sure.
Sure, the reason we did not scale down at all, as a matter of fact, what we wanted up doing, because our chief is staying on, he's also in the drop program, so we offset his salary with the drop.
So his-
That is what the
Our-
decrease is.
Plus, we had a full-time officer that was on the payroll that retired as of January or early February of 2021 that we were carrying before. as
Well, the reason
It
really.
was
is,
out on a medical leave, so he wasn't, correct?
Not for our budget reasons, though.
Okay.
We didn't lose any service, to answer your question.
Hopefully, okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, there's been a motion and a second. Oh, I'm sorry, you have
Go
a
ahead.
budget? Been a motion, and a second discussion. All those in favor? Signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, the preliminary budget is passed. Everybody that's here has gotten a copy of it with the comparison sheet. I note that it's 1, 2, 3, about 8 pages. So hopefully that's something that the people can look at. There are numbers that have to come in. There will be a update and a final to vote on in our December meeting. Councilwoman Lambert, you have something else in your report.
Yes, Mr. President. At last week's meeting, Councilwoman McLean asked about what I do. So I wanted to just give some additional information in my report. So during the months of October and November, I attended 3 meetings with Council President Copio, Treasurer Rankin, and Borough Manager White to review the budget, which was just one, and to prepare for the preliminary budget. In addition to that, I received calls and emails from residents with concerns such as lack of tree management by the Albany Swim Club at a residence in the 100 block of Birchwood Avenue. I contacted Mr. White and he visited the property as well as others in the block and advised that the residents may cut any overhanging branches on their property. and that additional communication is forthcoming with the swim club. Councilwoman McKernan contacted me in reference to an inquiry she received on the requirements for lateral inspections when selling a home. Mr. Tartaglia provided an explanation on when and why, and the details will be included in future Commonwealth Code reports. I assisted with the concern to address reasonable limits of storing firewood and conversations for review by council to request our solicitor to create a draft, which we did discuss. I spent several hours reading and researching the ongoing questions submitted by spreadsheet and emails of resident Mr. James. I met with Mr. White, Chief Capola, and talked with and emailed Council President Procopio to get clarity and answers to provide a response to Mr. James. I retyped the questions and they were reviewed by Mr. White and Mr. Procopio as appropriate and accurate responses. I emailed 3 attachments of responses to Mr. James, and emailed that the responses were vague, lacked detail, provided they were dodging, there was no accountability, and several other things which I found to be quite insulting. I also continue to coordinate with Mrs. Sue Borders to monitor the free libraries in the borough parks and other things as requested. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your work on all those matters, particularly Mr. James, which those questions had been answered previously and he was not satisfied with the answers previously. And you did more research and sent him further information, and I'm sure there'll be further contact in that regard. I appreciate it. Any other questions for the councilwoman?
Yes, Joyce, is Mr. James ever going to be satisfied with anybody here?
I really don't know. That requires a higher level than. Way high.
Good answer.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Moving on to unfinished business, and that would bring up, as discussed earlier, about firewood. As I mentioned, I sent out information in October. I sent it out again for this meeting. Mr. White, you had some thoughts. Did you want to regale us with your information
Sure,
from
so-
off of the Clinton Township portion of the ordinance that I had gathered and put together for council's review, as well as the planning commission?
So after reviewing all the documents that you did send to all of the council people, I think the easiest and most logical way to do this is to limit the amount of wood per which zone you live in. In other words, an R1 district is somebody who owns a property of 10,000 square foot. You would basically allow them 5 cords of wood. You live in an R2, which is 6,000 square feet. Obviously, you would need less wood because your house is smaller. You're going to go all the way down towards some of the row homes, etc. They would have 3 cords of wood. So by limiting the amount of wood to correspond with the size of your property, it's the easiest and fairest way. So, if we make an ordinance that says, hey, you can have 8 cords of wood per property. Well, somebody with 8 cords of wood on Woodlawn Avenue, where the problem is, would be the same problem with someone on Birchwood, which will cover their whole yard. So, to me, correspond size of property with the amount of wood that you would be allowed to have. That's my suggestion to council now.
Mr. Maiden.
Question for Mr. Burnett. How recent are these pictures?
The top one is probably within 2 months. They're all from 8 months, within 8 months.
Okay.
I have pictures dated for 6 years.
Have
I
the-
just didn't have the money to print them.
Sure. Have the conditions of the way in which it's stored improved?
Excuse me?
Have the conditions of the way? in which
Yes,
it's
the
stored
conditions have improved
Okay, so,
to the first page.
right, so my only other question is, and I think I know the answer to this, how many rodents have come onto your property?
Well,
And
not,
what you have?
I
what you
can't
have
answer
abated?
for what rodents are on my property. I can answer for what rodents are in my property,
Sure.
in my house.
Okay,
5 rats I caught in my house.
Okay.
5.
so, okay.
And I have a quick question. So he's selling this wood from his yard, correct?
If you look at
He's
this,
not so much using all of this wood, because there's no way he could use all this wood.
I'm gonna
Allegedly,
touch
yes.
this one out for 1 second.
Yeah.
I mean, can we prove that now? Okay, but if you can look, the time process of the piles, the size of the piles, and what time of year it is, that'll answer your question.
Yeah. I mean, that's truly what we're looking at. You have somebody running an illegal business.
Yep.
And it's affecting quality of life here.
So part of the other problem, I know you just brought up the quality of life with
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Ralph here, and
Yeah.
yeah, I know, Mr. Caperna, part of his problem is that next door, I think it's a tree surgeon to this guy, where he's dumping off 18-inch, 24-inch logs that they're splitting up all day on a Sunday, where you have to listen to this machine.
As you can see in the
This,
photos,
look, allegedly, this is, I guess it's not proven, so I don't want to say he's running a business. Here's an example. The house in question here, the square footage is 1,374 square feet. Suggested cords of wood for 1,000 square foot home is 3 for a season. I mean, you know, Mr. President, you did pretty good research here that everything's in front of everybody. You could limit it, this particular this property to 4 quarters. It's more than enough for a whole season. I burn wood myself, I go through 1 quart.
But do you burn it, My understanding is from Mr. Fataglia, who couldn't be here tonight, is that this gentleman uses it as his primary source of heating for his house.
And I don't know if I believe that.
Well, that's his.
I know that's just what he's saying.
I don't disagree with
I
you
mean, I
that
would
it's-
almost say whether he's got gas or oil, show me your bills. I mean,
I-
if this is what he's requesting,
I
just
had-
show me your gas bills for the year. or
I
your
had,
oil.
I had a previous boss who used, in this area, who used wood to heat his house for many years, and he used to keep upwards of 6 cords on his property, which is roughly the size of this gentleman's property, because he had 3 cords or more that he was burning, and he also, because he split his own stuff, he had 3 cords that he was drying for the next year, because you want to use dry wood in order to burn. So I'm just pointing out that he claims that he's using it, and I know Mr. Tartaglia has been in court on multiple occasions on this one to answer Mr. Maiden's point that he has been on site to make sure that he is keeping up, and he's due back in court on this particular property again in early December. I can't remember the exact date because the judges hold all the 14 citations in abeyance until there's a resolution to the situation.
Can I just add 2 things,
The,
Mr.
the,
President?
the problem with storing large quantities of wood year round, first of all, in the summer, because we're gonna require some type of tarp or cover, it's gonna hold water, which is a mosquito problem.
Well, that's
In the winter, where he's gonna store it to burn all winter supposedly, this is where the rodents are gonna harbor to stay warm. They're gonna stay underneath, so by limiting the amount per size of your property, it doesn't eliminate the whole problem, but it helps.
I got 2 things if I could add, Mr. President.
Yes, ahead,
I
Mr.
mean, if you could look at, view the photos, and you can tell for which season, to have 10 cords disappear within a matter of, 2 months in the month of June. I'm sure he's not burning in June. Secondly, he's gonna heat his own, I heat my own too. Just say hypothetically, I had oil heat, and oil went down $1. Can I store 300 gallons in my backyard for potential heat purposes? I was just wondering, because I am heating my house.
Well, normally you have tanks that are within your basement, so
Okay, well, I might need extra.
all I'm just saying is what my experience has been with other people that utilize it for their own purposes. That's all. I'm not going either way.
Utilizing it. I'm having an oil tank out back on my property more.
Yeah, question.
Mr. Greenslade,
Hi, John, could you clarify, were you basing that on the size of the property or the size of the home?
Well, it would be either or. Size of your property is the easiest way to do the whole municipality, because we have that. We know what district you live in. I'm assuming you're in our,
Well, I'm also an active wood burner, and
Okay.
as you're aware.
Yep,
I
yep.
collect firewood, and I would say that I would heat my home at least 50% of the time with firewood.
how many cords you go through a year?
About 4.
There you go. You live in a R3 with 4 cords, perfect.
I was just asking you if
The
your
formula-
recommendation is on the size of the house or the size of the property.
And he buys it off the guy selling it behind.
I split my own.
Mr. Chachi,
First of all, I
well, before you go, let me just ask, do you split your own wood, Mark?
Yes.
Do you store for to dry it from year to year? So do you have more than 4 cords, or you burn 4 cords, you have more than 4 cords on your property? There is no limit at the current time, so.
I hear there's some possibilities.
So my point is that if you're using it for your main purpose of heating, you often have more than what you need for the season, because it's not like you have an oil delivery truck that's gonna come to your house. Yep, I understand that. So it's not like you have an oil delivery truck or a gas company or a propane company that's gonna come and deliver it to you in most cases.
There is a
You-
wood
you don't-
delivery truck.
Well, I don't disagree with you that, I just don't disagree with you that this gentleman might be operating a business, but we've never been able to catch him in the act, so. And he has been cited, as I said, at least 14 times that I'm aware of. Mr. J.C. is next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I sure hope, I mean, to me, this seems like a glaring quality of life problem. I really hope that we're able to remediate it at the next meeting. I feel like this is, I mean, we're not out in the sticks. This is a very dense suburban town. We shouldn't have, this constant roar of wood cutting going on and this like log cabin from hell happening in the backyard. So I sure hope, now, the reason I'm actually standing up is to ask, when, assuming that ordinance is passed in the next meeting, what does that mean as far as this cache of wood?
I'll defer to the solicitor. He's,
I mean, it's, look, it's a new ordinance. It'll have an effective date. And I think once it's effective, we can go and say, you can't have this wood. It's not
So
a
he's not
permanent.
just grandfathered in.
It's not I mean, I know we're gonna base it on the zoning code, but I don't think we're not proposing to amend the zoning code, which then you'd have grandfather issues. So it's not, no, I mean, it's not a permanent structure, so it's not like he has to tear something down. We can talk about it. I mean, presumably he uses this wood. I mean, it seems like it's leaving the property, so. But he won't be grandfathered in.
so, but we wouldn't be able to make him immediately remove, if he has 10 cords of wood and he's limited to 5, he couldn't say the next day, you have to get rid of 5 cords of wood. He would be given the opportunity to whittle the pile down and not go above a certain level.
We could talk about it. I don't know if we give him.
Kidding me?
If we give them the opportunity to whittle it down per se, whatever council wants to do, but we could say, look, in 30 days, this thing is gonna go into effect, you're on notice. And on the 32nd day, we're gonna come around and see what's going on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I understand this is it's obviously a nuisance and a public health issue, but does it have to be legislated in order to deal with this? Can't we deal with it within the current code?
We have attempted to do that. As I mentioned, he's been cited 14 times. He's in front of the judge. We were unable to go to court for 1.5 years. And I don't know about the prior years before that. I know there were numerous citations at that particular time too. And I know that he has, Mr. Capern himself has said that the situation has improved as he has been brought to bear under the judicial system. And there's another hearing scheduled upcoming in December to see what the judge decides on the resolution. So, I mean,
And should we wait until then before it's legislated out, or?
well, I think no, I'm not saying we should wait for them. What I'm saying is this particular property has already been under judicial review for, I think the first hearing on this case may have been in September or August. The current language in the Alden ordinance is really, I think, insufficient. This is all it says: firewood shall be stacked in a safe and orderly fashion, not to exceed a height of 5 feet and not closer than 3 feet to the property line. That's sufficient, in my opinion. It needs some work, and I suggested some information besides potentially limiting the amount of wood by the size of the property, including reading from my notes that I sent out earlier. They has to be off the ground, and to allow walking space between the stacks so that you can't have one that's more than a cord. For those that don't know, was 4 by 4 by 8 feet. So I sent a picture out earlier of a customer of mine from Lower Merion that has this a 4 by 4 by 16 foot one right up against their fence with their neighbor. So even though We're not Lower Merion. They're not out in the sticks either. And he's got a huge pile of wood sitting out there. And I've seen others of similar in my travels without the county. And we're also requesting that they put rodent traps be required if you're going to be storing your wood, and they have to be in the backyard, et cetera. So there's other limitations besides just the number of cords of woods that will be stored.
Right, and so it's not necessarily tied to the amount of wood or the cord specifically. This is a health issue, it's a safety issue. And, you know, I know he doesn't want rats in this house.
Well, there's no,
But within the current framework, within the public safety or health, there's got to be an ordinance that will deal with that, not necessarily.
we're in front of the court under those ordinances right now.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't know what else to tell you. We're in front of the judge
Mhm.
to try and get the situation corrected under the current ordinances, which is why we're considering having more stringent applications for future reference. I see Ms. Blunt in the back.
Yes, sir. President, I am actually a member of the planning commission, and I was not at this past month's meeting due to a conflict, but I did gather some notes that I sent around, so I thought it would be appropriate for me to share the email that I sent to the planning commission members.
I incorporated your notes into the council. I didn't give you credit for it. I amalgamated, but go ahead.
Okay, I guess my concern here is that we have a problem property that we are trying to, one problem property that we're trying to change the regulations for across the whole town. I think that Mr. Caperna has a very valid point about the pests and the rodents and the things like that, but there are a number of sections within our code already that address that. I understand it's very frustrating that it's in the court's hands right now, and now that it's in the court's hands, the borough can't actually take the next action to hire an abatement company to come out there and take care of it. They have to wait.
Actually, we already sent an abatement company out there.
Okay, so I think for me, that's the focus. I think in the research I've done, I've seen a lot of arbitrary numbers thrown around about how much wood is required to heat a home. If this is something that is supposed to be someone's primary heat source, I feel that it's not appropriate for us to put a hard, fast limit on how much they can have, because you're basically telling someone you can't burn more than 3 cords of wood.
No, you can't store.
You can't
more
store it
than
on your
3.
property at one
You can
time.
have it delivered such as oil every month.
My recommendation is, I sent some language to y'all, and it's okay, I can read it.
I just have a question. You know, like for everybody who hasn't seen, I don't know if you've seen this picture. I mean, this picture is,
That's a problem.
this is
That's-
a problem.
yeah.
And I would like to say, I imagine that your people out in Lower Merion don't have something like this in their backyard that goes the entire backyard.
Well, Mr. Caperna said that this has been cleaned up since these pictures
Well,
have
the
been
front
taken.
page.
Yeah.
So we
I
went from
mean,
looking good to warden rodents and mosquitoes.
yeah, I mean, I understand, you know, people do burn, but there has to be something better than this that this borough council can do.
So I know a lot of information was passed around to the council, but if it's appropriate, I can read a suggestion of ordinance language that I presented to the planning commission, just so that it's out there for people to understand maybe some of the things that the council has in hand. My suggestion would be to amend the language to read orderly fashion and shall be secured from falling or collapse. Firewood shall be stacked on a raised skid or pallet or similar platform that is no less than 4 inches above the ground, and stacks shall not exceed 5 feet high and 4 feet wide. Aisles between multiple stacks must be at least 4 feet wide. Stacks shall be no closer than 3 feet to the property line and must be a minimum of 6 feet from any structure. All stacks are required to be covered with a watertight tarp or cover. I think that if you incorporate some of the limitations with the size of a stack, how high, how wide, how far between stacks, how far from property line, that's gonna automatically put some limitations on how much wood can be on anyone's property. And it also puts it in very clear language about how neat and orderly that it does need to be. So not that that has to be final language, but I think that's an example of how some changes to our current ordinance can help rectify a situation where it's clear that there is no order to the back of the yard.
I got a comment, and Mrs. Blunt, you're saying, yeah, you know, we can't tell people we can't heat their home, and we're not trying to, I'm not asking for council to say you can't heat your home. What I'm saying is, there's gonna be some kind of fine line for heat your home, selling the wood. I mean, he could say he's, you know, he's heating his home, which he very might well be, and your shirt, your jacket's black, but I'm gonna tell you it's red. I mean, because he's telling us, that told me what the case is. And I'm not telling somebody you can't, you know, heat their home. I heat my home with wood too. But there has to be at some point, you know, a give. And most of these ordinances that come in play with changing, it's not 100 people coming in this room. It's just one. And that's government.
All right, Mr. Shakespeare's final comment from the crowd.
So, I mean, I just want to say, I do agree. I think there needs to be a limit to the number of cords of wood. I mean, I think if you've got a gigantic parcel of land, even if we follow the parameters that Ms. Blunt just described, you know, you would just have a gigantic sea of wood as opposed to a small cross. I understand the argument, but I do think it makes sense that it is limited in the number, maybe 5 cords being that number.
If you're living on an R1 district.
All right.
Let's-
Joe, it's 5 to 9.
yeah.
Let's move it here.
I'll give Mr. Walker the final words that you raised.
So
Ken.
this is not a comment on any, has there been, just rhetorical questions, has there been any benchmarking across other municipalities of Alden's size? And
Yeah, there's I guess here, Parkside is one of the ordinances that are cited in the examples I gave, and they're actually slightly smaller than we are, so.
So that's a start. It's just
All right.
benchmarking, understanding.
Is the consensus of council that the language that I sent today, plus a limit on the size, amount of wood, depending on the size of the lot, is the way we wish to go?
Yes.
All right, I will work with the solicitor on language to that regard for future meeting. I hope that your requirements, Mr. Caperna, for a full, open discussion to try and resolve
No,
the
I
situation.
wanted a year ago, and here we are now. I mean, you have to excuse my behavior, this is crazy.
And any other unfinished business? Seeing none, new business, caucus will be held December 1st, 7:30 PM here at the John P. McLean Community Center. Council will meet Wednesday, December 8th, 7:30 PM, also in the John P. McLean Community Center. Anything else for members of the floor? Mr. Wilson, did you want to comment about scouting for food, sir, before we leave? I saw you come in. Thank you.
So, thank you very much. Number one, just read a report before I came in. Let me back up. We just had an Eagle Scout board tonight for a young man from Springfield. He passed. Awesome. Want to thank council for the presentation to Cameron Francis. That was awesome. Food banks. Food banks are really struggling right now with all the things that are weird this year with supply chains. Food banks are also struggling. Scouting has a thing we call Scouting for Food. The Alden Boosters have been kind enough to include our flyers with their flyers and some other things. That's being distributed throughout town. November 20th is when we'll be going through Alden Borough and collecting cans. Those cans then go through our funnel, if you will, where we separate out cans into categories, but also those that have been expired date stamps, they go into the trash. That food that, or those cans that have been received, all stay local here to EVM, Alden Union Church, Salvation Army if they're open, Senior Center in Sharon Hill. So it all stays local. If anybody would like to help, we can certainly use a lot more help this year. We'll be starting at 8:30 at the Legion. We'll need people to help go around different sections in town to collect cans. And then we'll have a second group that will be the funnels and sorters. So I'll just put it as an open invitation. 8:30, American Legion post across the parking lot. And the date is November 20th. Thank you.
You're welcome. The only other comment I have is that,
One more, Joe. If we
you go ahead.
unless we come up with some kind of resolution right now, we're not gonna talk about this until caucus in 3 weeks, and then we still don't have 7 days to
No,
pass an ordinance.
I'm gonna
Want the
draft
ordinance?
language.
Okay, but does
to
everyone
say-
agree with roughly
Yes,
going with the art?
That was my understanding.
Yeah.
Mr. White, and
Yeah.
I apologize, I should have been clear. I'm aware that we have to advertise it
yes,
in time to vote on. it
on
at
the
the next
December meeting, absolutely.
I just didn't
No,
want
no,
to get
no,
away again
that
for
was,
another
no,
month.
no, that's what I said, that I was gonna work with Swisher on the language, including what I gave earlier as part of the stacking requirements. Part of the things that are going out, the boosters will have their tree lighting ceremony on Saturday, December the 4th at 6:30. And there's also a Legion flyer going out with it. I know that a quarter of the town's already delivered. 4 of the 16 sections have reported back in that they're done. Seeing nothing else, Mr. D'Amico,
Yeah, sorry. How long do the flags stay up?
they're gonna be coming down after Veterans Day. And then the Christmas banners are gonna be going up shortly thereafter.
I thought they were waiting until next year.
Veterans Day is the deadline, yep, and that's tomorrow. Seeing nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn? Second, Mr. Conley?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.